Taylor, Chris, welcome to Virgin Radio. How are you guys?
Very well, thank you.
Very well indeed, thank you.
Now, it's Thursday that we're playing this out, but we're currently sat here as you guys are limbering up to play the O2 tonight. Do you get nervous still?
Oh, yeah.
Because you guys don't look very nervous.
No, I had a hard time going to sleep last night.
Does that have anything to do with the gig, or do you genuinely you get nervous?
I generally do when the night before and I consider like the London gigs, you know, they're kind of important. That we always have our friends here, from the Elder Statesman rockers to just like our friends and local shows. I almost consider London like a local show for us.
Okay.
Like we have 3 local shows. We have LA, we have New York, and we have London, and those are kind of like, you know, our guest list says 500 people on it, and
wow.
You know, there's a lot of like, you know, stuff to tend
We love to
as close
freeload in
friends.
London, that's for sure.
It's not really freeloading. We like all of those people to be there, but it always kind of gets me on my nerves a little bit more than usual.
Okay. What about
Plus,
you?
it's like the first show here since we did Glastonbury. So,
Yeah.
You know.
That must take quite a lot of coming down from.
Yeah, well, I mean, I personally, like, I don't recall us ever doing a festival gig that had more of a sort of insane expectation put upon it.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
The build-up was... It's funny because it was insane the 2 years ago when we were supposed to do it, and everybody kept going, Glastonbury, Glastonbury. And for us, you know, being from America, we just think it's just like the Reading Festival, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
There's a lot less urine being thrown around at Glastonbury.
yeah, you know, I guess the Reading is really like the
Unfortunately.
the rock festival, I guess,
Yeah.
which is where we always belonged and always considered headlining that to be a really prestigious. When we did it, when we headlined it the first time, it was like, oh my God, we're headlining Reading Festival. And I think in the 90s, the Reading Festival was kind of the one, just due to the climate of the music.
Yeah.
But I think part of the reason I know that everyone's always said Glastonbury's always been the biggest one, but I'm sorry, at 95 they weren't talking about it the same way they talk about it.
No,
now.
that's true. That's
It's
true.
become the sort of Coachella
Yes.
of England. You know, does that make
we'll say
sense?
that. Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
And it's where all the beautiful people go, and where all the people camp, and it's this huge thing. So we were just like, well, it's just we've headlined Wembley Stadium, we've done the headline Reading. You know, I mean, really, is it that big of a deal? And the build-up got so much where you're like, I guess it is a big deal.
It's a
And I
pretty
talked to
big
like Rufus Taylor, my buddy Roger Taylor's son, and he's like, no, dude, this is the big one, man. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, this is the one, you know. And you get there, and the scope of it, you just notice kind of right away.
crazy.
Right, Chris?
Yeah, it was nuts. I mean, I'd never actually even been to Glastonbury before, because the last time the band had played it was like the year before I joined.
It doesn't strike me as the kind of place you'd go to visit, to be honest.
Well, you know, I mean, like as a fan or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd never seen it, so I like Taylor said, like, I mean, I just thought of it in terms of like the Reading Festival or V Festival, one of those kind of things. And when you walk out, I didn't even actually go out and see the main stage until we walked out onto the stage to play, and you just see the sea of people and all the flags waving. I mean, it felt like there was like an army descending upon you.
Yeah.
You know?
About the way, and this is getting a bit techno, but something about the way they lay the crowd out a little bit more on the level of the band than most festivals. Didn't it feel like that?
Yeah.
a little bit
yeah,
higher.
yeah, they
Old
felt more in
school,
your
like it was
face.
like you're like doing the Isle of Wight festival or something back in '68.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
that thing. The fans are a little bit closer. They got these crazy flags. You know, you got frickin' Johnny Depp and the cast of frickin' Entourage or whatever on the side of the stage. You know, and it's the
Depp gets everywhere.
The whole frickin' thing just felt like, oh my God, and like, thank God we had a good night.
And what? Yeah,
Because
it was
we
good.
don't
Thank God it was a good
always, in
gig.
those
It
situations,
could
you
have
don't
sucked.
always. You don't
Well, it
always.
didn't. It didn't.
No, it didn't. And no, we knew it. We got off stage and we're like, oh, thank God. That was a good one.
Now, whereabouts in the timeline was the recording of Concrete and Gold with Glastonbury? Was it all done after Glastonbury or before? Or
Yeah, we did it we started in December and finished it up before we left for that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. But Glastonbury was like only the third or fourth gig of that run, something like
Yeah.
that. I mean, it was really early in the run, so we were definitely still. You know, you're still kind of nervy at
Yeah.
that point. You know, you throw in a couple new songs in there that you don't completely have, you know, in that
Gelled,
like second nature kind of thing.
Do you write all as a band, or is it very much kind of like, here's the song, what do you think to this? How does it work?
I mean, It can kind of vary, but I would say 85% of the time Dave comes in with a demo that's pretty near. It's like the Pete Townsend like version of like what he would bring to the band. I mean, you know, if you listen to like the demo of Won't Get Fooled Again, it's pretty much Pete Townsend, but pretty much the song.
The song as is.
And so a lot of the demos that Dave, because obviously Dave can play everything really great.
I've heard he's quite good.
He's quite good at everything. And so, I mean, he can make these $1 million demos
Yeah.
at his house in a couple hours. So really, at the end of the day, we become part of the sort of like, it's in a strange way, we become Dave's sort of like, I don't know how you put it.
The icing
like,
on the cake.
No, well, he's able to have a band there to go, let's try it like this.
Right.
Let's try it like that. Let's try it like this. And within that, our little bits of personality musically get sort of interspersed in there. And, you know, with Dave, it's like, I would say out of every 50 ideas I have, he likes about 5 of them. But that's okay, you know, and it's just because at the end of the day, we're trying to serve the song.
Yeah.
And for the most part, except for a few exceptions here and there, it's Dave's tune. But sometimes, like with Skies the Neighborhood, well, I think we recorded that whole thing in one day.
Wow.
And it was like, and we hadn't done any demos or anything. Dave didn't have a demo for it or anything. We just literally walked in there, and Dave said, "I got this idea for a song." And we've had songs like that. These Days was like that. I remember back on Wasting Light. We all, you know, sometimes it's a little bit more band involved, and sometimes Dave's got a pretty crystal clear idea of what he wants it to be.
So back in December, when you're kind of all gathering together to record it, did you for one second think that you'd be recording it with Sears producer with a member of Boyz II Men? Was that ever part of the plan?
No, not at all. I mean, it's funny because since we were at East West making this record, you know, it's a multi-room studio, and there were all these other people in and out of there the whole time. Yeah, I think so. That's not mine. So there were all these other people in and out of there the whole time, and Sean from Boyz II Men just happened to be in there.
As you do.
And and Dave just happened to, you know, have a conversation with him out back or something. I think he was like writing lyrics or something, and so he got him to come in and do that crazy vocal part. You know, it's
Amazing.
like a million layers on the title track. And that was like, not only was that not planned, but that was a huge turning point for the record, because that was the first bit of that happened on there. And although, like, I think that's something that's been kind of in Dave's head for a long time, you know, and certainly in Taylor's head, because, you know, it's a drawing from a lot of that, like, you know, Queen and bands that did a lot of those layered vocals like that. But that sort of set the, you know, template for the rest of the album, and it just sort of turned that direction based on that chance encounter, really.
It's an amazing album. How difficult is it to keep it fresh and to kind of keep going and kind of like keep starting all over again?
It's not really. I mean, I don't think. I think as long as, you know, Dave always tries to find. Basically, we know if we get in, like we did a bunch of demos before we went in and made the record. I could play you those demos, and they would sound like a little bit rougher versions of like these songs recorded during Wasting Light.
Yeah.
You know, we're pretty good. We've gotten pretty good at just like making our own
your
little
sound,
records, and we have like 2 or 3 guys that work for us that are engineers, and we can go into any studio and record an album if we wanted to. You know, that's why we did that Saint Cecilia EP was like that.
Yeah.
We did that in 4 days or something, and that's basically us producing it, Dave producing it, that kind of thing. So to keep it fresh, we try to like find either challenges or just a different area. And Dave and I were both really enamored with Greg's album, his first album with his band, The Bird and the Bee. And it's kind of like the Carpenters on acid in Silver Lake, California. Right?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Are the Carpenters on acid, or are we on acid listening to the Carpenters?
No, the Carpenters are
All of the
on,
above.
All of
on
them.
acid.
Everyone. We're all on acid.
Sitting at a coffee shop in
Hawaii,
Silver
right?
Lake,
Yeah.
getting, you know, with a barista with an amazing mustache making him a coffee. That's
As you do.
As you do.
Yeah.
So basically, Dave wanted that. I mean, Dave, I remember we sat down in the management company all together to have because Dave was planning on doing some other stuff. He wanted to make a movie. and he was trying to get
Because he's not
this-
busy enough.
No, he's not. And I
Well,
know
we've been coming off a break at that point. We've been off the road for
Right, okay.
9 months or something.
Yeah, we were all 6 months into our hiatus, and I was in the middle of making my little record. Shifty was in the middle of making his record. Nate was writing something. Pat was working on his farm, and we were sort of in our own personal hibernation modes. And I was 5 songs into making a record, and Shifty, you'd already made your record, and Nate hadn't even started his. And then Dave was gonna make this movie, and then once it became apparent that making a Hollywood movie is just I mean,
Bit of a drag.
it's a 25-year. Look at how long Queen's been trying to make the Queen movie.
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
So I think Dave realized that and then said, okay, scrap that. I'm ready.
Cool.
And and so he sat down, and he had met Greg on vacations, and they had kind of formed a bit of a friendship, and because of Dave's love of his music and stuff. So he's like, I want Greg to produce it, and I talked to him, and he said he's into it, and basically I want him to help us make the Sgt. Pepper, the Pet Sound, the Foo Fighters version of trying to
That's not a bad aspiration to have.
trying to aspire to do. I mean, no one's ever going to make those records, but just to take a tinge of that. And the cool thing about Greg's sense of harmony is it's not really necessarily classic rock. It's a little bit more jazzy.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, there's been plenty of that in classic rock as well. But so when he started kind of the real X factor to the record, if that, if the record was just recorded by Butch or by Nick Raskin or whoever, it would sound like a new Foo Fighter record. Greg added this once Dave got into the harmonies, he just added this sort of these crazy swooping jazz harmonies, vocal harmonies sort of jazz, I guess, that you can hear on the Bird and the Bee records. And Nara Jones even sings on it. And that's kind of the X factor of the record. And the engineering really is pretty spacey for us.
It's very wet.
Very wet. That's a good.
I think when I listen to this record, I hear lots of swirling,
Yeah.
delays and flangey things, and the echo chamber.
the best Foo Fighters record to have sex to.
Really?
Well, it is.
Have you
I've
tried that?
I've tried to all of them. To be fair,
No,
Walking After You is just you just end up crying.
Yeah, you're
All
just
My
holding-
Life is
you're
over
just holding.
over before the
I
second
don't
chorus.
really think of us as a have sex to kind of band.
Oh, you should
but
try it.
Yeah, all right. I'll see if I can talk my wife into
Maybe when
it.
you listen to it,
Well,
not
the
playing.
funny thing you say that is we've learning these songs live.
Yeah.
I realized they're the easiest songs, even though without the studio trickery of the fact of the space vocal flying out into outer space and a million vocal stacks. Just the actual act of playing this record and doing our own sort of garage version of it, which is what we do basically, has been the easiest, hasn't it?
Yeah, it came together a lot quicker in rehearsal than I think all of us expected to, because the record is
Production.
It's a big production, and when we first started rehearsing the songs, it was kind of as a matter of fact, when we first started rehearsing the songs, Dave was still down the street at the studio, I think, working on the mixes. So he would be sort of in and out of rehearsal, so it was the rest of us jamming on it, and
Wow.
we'd be like, well, that's actually, a couple times through it, you're like, that's come together.
I
Now-
think it's because the record has a lot more space on it than a lot of our records do. I think that's part of it. I think that it's a little easier going as far as it's not so much. There's a little bit of really fast hard rock stuff like La Di Da and Run, but a lot of it has a lot more space.
Yeah.
And even our road crew were they like our record, and they're the hardest.
The hardest ones to please.
Yeah, every once in a while, one of them, that new album, I don't like it that much.
Now-
and,
They hate us the most.
yeah, they hate us the most.
That's what
it's
they're
like your
there for.
wife,
Virgin Radio with Jamie East.